The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to GAV's webinar series on digital transformation. This is Sri Chaganti, the CTO and the host of today's webinar. We are going to be giving a couple of more minutes for some of our resistants to get on to the webinar. So we'll be starting in about a couple of minutes the webinar. Greetings to everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. We'll be starting our webinar right now. My name is Sri Chaganti. I'm the CTO of GAVS Technologies and today's host for this webinar. And the webinar series from GAVS Technology on digital transformation today is going to be focusing on how digital transformation is being powered by AI. So before we jump into the webinar, few logistics. If you want to ask questions on the panel, you have a question section that you should be able to pop up and then type your questions in. Please submit your questions all through the webinar, as well as towards the end we have a Q&A session, and we strongly urge you to not hold back and ask as many questions as you can during the course of the webinar as well as towards the end of the webinar. Moving forward, I want to give you a little introduction about GAVS. GAVS is a leading AI-driven machine learning solutions provider for transforming organizations digitally. Well before this digital transformation became a buzzword, GAVS was involved in providing such solutions and transforming our customers. With a global presence of Fortune 500 customers, GAVS is continuing to innovate and provide solutions promoting AIOps and digital transformation. This webinar is not a sales pitch. GAVS Technologies has been running series of webinars on digital transformation, which are more informational and where we were sharing our experiences and learning from the experiences of the attendees and consolidate that to kind of develop our understanding and share that understanding with our customers as well as our webinar registrants. This is going to be a highly interactive webinar, and there will be 3 polls during the course of the webinar, and there will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and we strongly urge all of you to participate both in the polls as well as in the Q&A session. And towards the end of the webinar, there is a survey question that you'll be requested to fill in, and we will be obliged if you can participate in that one as well. So moving forward, we also have a winner for every webinar. From the previous webinar, we pick up a webinar winner, and today's webinar winner is Brian Harrows, and we will be continuing to picking up these winners for at each of our webinar series. So your participation, your level of participation and your interactions with us are some of the factors that are going to be taken into account for picking up the winners. So Brian Harrows joins two other winners that have been previously selected that have attended the previous webinars. I'll give you a brief introduction to the summary of the three webinars that we had so far on digital transformation. We started off with the first webinar on demystifying the digital transformation. We've identified what are the forces that are driving and what are the enabling factors for digital transformation across the organizations, and the need to have zero outages within an organization for such successful transformation. And the feedback, that survey feedback during that first webinar, was that many of the participants felt that the challenges that they were facing for embarking upon this digital transformation were the legacy technologies that were embedded in their organizations. And almost everybody agreed that the customer experience is the one that should drive the digital transformation. Based on that, we had our second webinar where we focused on the significance of customer experience in digital transformation, where prioritizing for and designing a digital platform or a service which isn't based on user-centric insights is going to be failing. And that theme, when we actually, through our research, kind of collected the information presented and asked our participant to participate in the survey, 85% of the participants in that webinar agreed with us that the users within an organization should be treated as equally as the users, external users and external customers for a digitally transformed organization. And 67% of them again agreed with us that zero outages is the first step in enabling such customer experience. In our last webinar, webinar number 3, in the next slide, we focused on, in order to get that customer experience, the first step has to be the discovery part. Being able to discover what business processes are running within your organization, what processes make that organization to be successful, on which both internal and external customers are dependent upon. And that discovery of those processes is the first step in starting the digital transformation. And in our survey, when we asked about how many organizations were ready to have a baseline of the people, process, and technologies to embark upon this digital transformation journey, majority of them said they were in the process, or will be ready in about 6 months, or they're not ready yet. And majority of them, about 75% of them, rated their companies between average or fair in terms of having discovered all the processes that will enable them to transform to a digitally transformed organization. So with that, we kind of went ahead and looked at what technologies, evolving technologies, are going to be influencing this digital transformation. And to come to talk about digital transformation, this is basically a process of using digital technologies to create or modify existing business processes, culture, and customer experience to meet the new market requirements. So with the rapid proliferation and widespread of various digital technologies, calls for augmenting the human intelligence with algorithmic intelligence is what we have found. And based on that, today's topic we have come up with is digital transformation and how is it being powered by AI. Any transformation is a collection of discrete interactions. In today's webinar, our speaker is Kerry Hoffman. Kerry Hoffman is a strategic advisor to GAFS Technologies. Besides being the owner of Focal Point Business Coaching for small and medium-sized companies, she's also co-founder and principal at get digital velocity, enabling large organizations to move into a frictionless operations. She is very passionate about digital transformation, in general transformation and digital transformation in particular. With 30 years of corporate experience behind her, heading as a CIO for many business units in Johnson & Johnson and Johnson Control, Kerry brings to the table a vast variety of experience that she's going to be sharing with us on how she sees the artificial intelligence or algorithmic intelligence driving the digital transformation. Again, I'm Sri Chaganti, CTO at GAPS Technologies, and it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Kerry to today's webinar. And thank you, Kerry, for looking forward for your wonderful and most expectant presentation. Over to you, Kerry.
Thank you, Sri. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you today to share a topic that I am passionate about. So digital transformation is now a business imperative all the way up to the C-suite. What you see here is a definition of digital transformation: the integration of digital technology into all areas of an enterprise to fundamentally change how it operates in order to deliver greater value to its customers. I think the challenge in this definition is in the interpretation. So let's look at two different perspectives. Perspective one: if I'm living and working in a traditionally run business, I may say, hey, all computer systems are digital. And we've been putting in computer systems to automate our processes for 3 to 4 decades now. We implemented ERP 30 years ago and diligently upgraded it. And we were one of the early companies to put in robust HR and CRM systems. Oh, and our shop floor has been automated for decades now. We're well along our digital journey. The reality is companies still operating in a traditional way are part of what I call the digitally poor. Perspective two, which you see on the right side of this slide, is if you're working in a true digital business, then you're part of the digitally rich. You recognize there's a huge difference between traditional business on the left of this slide and digital business on the right of this slide. A digital business uses modernly architected platforms and technology. If you're part of the digitally rich, you know technology hit the exponential part of its growth curve 10 to 15 years ago. And it's fundamentally changing every aspect of business as we know it. In fact, your company has a culture of continuously learning just to keep up with technology changes and the new ways of working. You know how important it is to collect massive amounts of data on your customers, your products, and your internal operations. And you know it takes exponential technologies and modernly architected platforms to turn the massive data into insights and actions. So a digital business is run vastly different than a traditional business. And this high magnitude of change is why we call it a digital transformation. I know I'm not alone in thinking the seismic magnitude of the transformation is just catapulting us out of the industrial age and into the next age. We just don't have consensus on what to call it yet. You know, if you think about it, when we moved from the agricultural age to the industrial age, it actually took hundreds of years. And I'm sure no one in the agricultural age said, hey, we're moving into the industrial age, right? We don't know what to call it yet as we move into the next stage. So far in the slide, I spoke about 1.5 of the aspects that you see on this chart: technology and data. To be fully part of the digitally rich, companies need to be fully operating on the right side of this chart. And as we saw in a poll from one of the previous webinars, the most important aspect is customer. Digital companies run from the outside in with a culture and an operations which just exudes extreme customer centricity. This means all employees have contact with the customer. There is such a deep understanding of the customer that changes are made to solve the issues that your customer has with their customers. The fully digital company operates with cross-functional teams, agile practices, processes, and cultures, and understands the importance of standardizing process steps. Standardizing the steps of a process allows you to customize a process to a customer, or maybe micro segments of your customers, without creating a lot of chaos. This enables companies to move 10 to 15, even 100 times faster than a traditional company. One of my favorite things about a digital company is how they handle talent. There has to be an abundance mentality around talent, where talent capacity planning includes not only employees and consultants, but also freelancers, the gig society, and deep partnerships. Partnerships with universities, partnerships with other companies, even partnerships with your competitors. So look at this chart as a sliding scale, with traditional at a 1 on the left-hand side and digital at a 5 on the right-hand side. Take a minute to think about where your company lands on this chart by each of these categories. And we're going to pull up the first poll while you think about that. So again, as we pull up the first poll, consider the context areas of customer, speed, product, talent, operations, and technology. Where do you see your company operating today on a scale of 1 being highly traditional and 5 being highly digital? So go ahead and select one of those choices that you see on the slide. So highly traditional means most of those context areas are still traditional. Mostly traditional, 1 to 3 of the context areas have started to transform within your company. The mix is that most of the context areas have transformations in progress, with 1 to 2 transformed. Mostly digital, at least 3 context areas are highly transformed, or highly digital. All the context areas are transformed. You are a fully digital company. So go ahead and just take one more minute to cast your vote. I'm really looking forward to seeing these results. Just a few more seconds. Yep, let's pull up the results. All right, so what you see here is that 76%, so the majority of people responded that they're a mix of traditional and digital, and transformation is in process. So that's great. That's really great to see. We've got some people that are already mostly digital, which is awesome. And no one yet in the highly digital. So we do have some work to do. All right, let's jump into what is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is one of the exponential technologies commonly driving digital transformation across industries. It's ultimately transforming our processes and enabling new business models. So there's a definition of AI that you see on the slide: computer systems with the ability to perform tasks which normally require human intelligence. I recently saw another definition that I like even better in a Forbes article on synthetic biology. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I just referenced this Forbes article in a post yesterday. So here's John Cumber's definition. He was the author of the Forbes article. AI is programming of machines with reasoning, learning, and decision-making behaviors through algorithms. And he goes on to say algorithms are simply a set of rules that a computer follows. So I really like that definition of artificial intelligence. And today's mature AI has a narrow focus and can process massive amounts of data. Tomorrow's mature AI has a goal of simulating the human brain, We're not there yet. The reality is the term AI covers a continuously evolving range of tools, and they're often accessible through cloud services, APIs, and vendor platforms. You can see a roadmap from Gartner on the screen, which I think is really important to follow as AI is incorporated into a company's products or services. And if you think about AI being incorporated in all areas of your business, in my previous experience as a CIO, I really encourage companies to accelerate their AI adoption roadmap by working with IT providers and partners who already have incorporated AI into their platforms. And in that way, you don't necessarily have to follow this AI adoption curve. You'll be accelerated by working with partners who already have it in their platforms. AI is definitely not like implementing an application. It's a technology that ends up being integrated in all areas of your business. On the next slide, we're going to look at an application of AI for AIOps. Leading a company's digital transformation with an AIOps platform not only enables continuous IT operations management, it is a solution to exceeding customers' expectations for applications and apps to work 24/7 every day of the year. And of course, we all expect that, don't we? Again, AIOps platforms are AI platforms which enable continuous IT operations management. These platforms quickly identify, prevent, and resolve IT outages. AIOps platforms combine big data and machine learning, handle huge volumes, variety, and velocity of data, and augment and sometimes even replace monitoring tools. I think a lot of people on the call would agree with me. Over the years, we've had the opportunity to put a lot of different monitoring tools in place. Application monitoring, network performance monitoring over every aspect of our IT infrastructures. These monitoring tools are so good, they produce massive amounts of alerts. However, this can create some problems. You end up with alert fatigue and even turn off parts of the monitoring as it's impossible for humans to keep up with the volume of alerts. This is where AIOps comes into play. It's a relatively narrow focus area with massive amounts of data. As a CIO, my favorite part of a good AIOps platform is an ability to very quickly identify the root cause of an incident and even prevent many incidents from occurring in the first place. Because with AIOps in place, the monitoring system can be fully turned back on. So let's move to the next slide and look at advanced AIOps. Advanced AIOps platforms utilize self-learning and self-correcting systems as opposed to learning through rules and training data sets. This is really important. Any AI platform is either advanced or it's basic. And as you look at different partners and vendors who have AI incorporated into their platform, it's really important for you to ask the question and understand, is it advanced or is it basic? So again, if it's basic, then the AI is learning through rules and training sets. You actually have to feed it the rules and training sets. If it's advanced, it's utilizing self-learning and self-correcting systems. And so it trains on its own over time just by the real-time data that you feed it. So let's look at some other characteristics of advanced AIOps. Machine learning is used to understand and keep up with just this ever-changing IT environment. The advanced platforms can actually keep your CMDB up to date, which we all know is no small feat, and few companies have probably achieved. Advanced AIOps platforms also use AI to detect abnormalities across all of the monitoring tools. So with advanced AIOps, you actually turn all parts of the monitoring systems back on and let the AI sift through all the noise, correlate, and predict the root issues. So if you don't work in the infrastructure department, I encourage you to ask your infrastructure team, do we have all of the parts of our monitoring system turned on? Because 9 times out of 10, some of those pieces will have been turned off because there's just so many alerts, you can't even sift through it as a team. And this is where the advanced AIOps comes into play. And then lastly, intelligent automation will remediate the root issues without human input and before there's a significant impact to users and customers. So take a minute now to think about the most important areas of improvement in your IT operations as we pull up the next poll. So poll 2, what is the most important area of improvement in your IT operations? You can go ahead and choose one of these now. And remember, by participating in all the polls and the survey question at the end, you are eligible to win a prize. Very exciting. So these areas that you're seeing: increase business responsiveness, enhance applications availability, and eliminate customer frustration. Number 3, avoiding costly service disruptions. Number 4, eliminate firefighting. Number 5, insight into workloads that drive costs. I'll give you a minute to take a look at those, make your selections. I know some of you are saying, where I can pick A and B or C and D or all of the above, because I'm sure we want to improve all of these areas. But we're really interested in understanding your perspective on what's most important for your organization. So this will probably vary across people. So we definitely have, I think the majority of the people have voted. So let's take a look at the results. All right, so kind of as predicted, 3 are standing out and about equal. The top one, enhance apps availability and eliminate customer frustration. And then increase business responsiveness and eliminate firefighting. So, really the customer piece, it's interesting. If you're an IT team that's trying to have a seat at the table as a business person at the table, you really can't have outages, right? The minute there's an outage, everything just goes back to the basics of IT. So not surprised that the majority of people picked the first 2. And then eliminating firefighting as a previous business unit CIO, where I got my infrastructure services from my corporate team, I really like that AIOps can eliminate the firefighting, because what AIOps does is actually can pinpoint where the issue is, and you don't have different IT infrastructure teams pointing fingers at each other. So very interesting results. Let's take a look at some predictions from Gartner. On the next slide, we're going to see a prediction from Gartner. By 2023, 30% of large enterprises will be using AI for IT operations and digital experience monitoring, which is something that you do on very modernly architected platforms. This is actually up from 5% in 2018. In my opinion, this needs to accelerate, and it can easily accelerate through partnerships with advanced AIOps providers. I think as a country, the US and frankly the western part of the world is falling behind Asia. And we better have at least 80% of large enterprises using AI by 2023. So I actually hope this Gartner prediction is predicting too low. And I'll go off on a tangent for a minute. It's interesting as Asia is now leading the innovation in AI. Some claim that this will remain the case because China has access to huge sets of data with the absence of personal privacy laws. I say we can't use this as an excuse and can easily find ways to leverage China's work. It's actually the adoption of AI and other exponential technologies over the invention which allows companies to thrive. So we have a huge opportunity to make sure we're adopting AI and other exponential technologies. So we can get into this deeper in the Q&A if we want to start debating China's innovation in AI. For now, we'll go to the next slide. So why is AIOps adoption so important? Business is accelerating. We all feel this acceleration. And our customers, and frankly, each of us, expects a high level of responsiveness. We expect applications and apps to work all the time. And AIOps enhances app availability by catching the anomalies occurring before an outage. There's also significant cost savings in utilizing AIOps from both avoiding business disruptions, which of course eliminates customer frustration, and by streamlining workloads. And the streamlining can be to a great extent when automation is turned on. A lot of issues can be solved through automation, focusing higher skilled resources on identifying and implementing the next set of technologies. And technology is coming at us at an exponential rate, so this is really important. The Forbes article I mentioned earlier is actually about the use of AI on synthetic biology, and it's an amazing article to read because it's not science fiction anymore, and it's amazing how quickly synthetic biology has been advancing. So I'd now like to turn it over back to Sri Chaganty. Shri's going to share the components and characteristics of an end-to-end advanced AIOps platform, the GAVS Technologies Zero Incident Framework. So Shri, back over to you.
Thank you, Kerry. Before I jump into what GAVs have to offer, a couple of observations from what the polls have said and what Kerry has been mentioning. By the way, Kerry, you forgot, in many organizations, there are also monitoring tools to monitor the monitoring tools.
This is true.
Okay. So typically, I've seen in my experience when we go and ask how many monitoring tools do you have in your environment for IT people, the typical for medium to large organization, the number varies anywhere between 20 to 50 tools because everyone wants to monitor as to what is happening. And this monitoring is giving you data, but not the intelligence that is needed. When you look at the spectrum of what is needed for you to digitally transform and apply the digital transformation across, you need to discover all your business processes. So one of the polls, and consistently we've been seeing through our webinar series here, eliminate the customer frustration application availability is on the top. Why is it on the top? Because business processes are nothing but a set of business applications. It could be one application or a set of applications that make a business process. And if the business process is not available, if the applications are not available, a business process fails to meet the service levels required of it. And when it fails is when the customer experience, whether the customer is an external customer or an internal customer, that frustration is what the digital transformation is going to help eliminate. And for that elimination, because of so many tools are out there, so much of data is being collected, we need to actually infer intelligence from that data that is being collected. And so at GAVS, we've developed a framework called Zero Incident Framework with a audacious goal of helping enterprises to trend towards zero incidents. Well, there will be no zero incidents, let me admit that. But the intent there is, if you look at the incidents that happen that affect the digital experience, the incidents are very repetitive. About 80% of the incidents are repetitive. If we can zero in those 80% of repetitive incidents that do not require human intervention, then digital experience is automatically going to go high, contributing to the main goal of what digital transformation is all about. So in the framework that we developed at GAVS, we can discover your business processes, monitor those business processes for service levels to establish a baseline, analyze by ingesting data from various monitoring tools that are already present in an organization, create patterns on those events that are generated, learn from those patterns using our algorithmic intelligence, and apply it to predict what might be happening in future and remediate them so that an incident doesn't occur that is going to be affecting the end user experience and the digital experience overall. A comprehensive set of modules that can do an end-to-end discovery and visibility and monitoring and correlating of that data to pull out the intelligence out of that data to help this digital transformation is what GAVS offers through its zero incident framework. So with that little introduction of what GAVS offers, I will, after the next poll, will explain to you the complexity behind such an operation. But let's take the poll, the next poll and the last poll of this webinar, which we are basically going to be asking you how many, in your opinion, business processes are critical for your organization. We're going to give you a minute for this, and we have about 40 seconds left. And those of you who have not participated yet, would urge you to participate, because these webinar series are built on information exchange, even though we are doing it through questions and polls and surveys. Your input definitely helps us as to where to focus in sharing our experiences with you as we are continuing our journey in this AIOps arena. So we're going to be closing the polls in next 5 seconds, and the last set of people, we got almost the majority. We've closed the poll, and we're going to be sharing the poll results. As you can see, any business of considerable size will have at least 25, if not more than 25 business processes that you know of, that you're aware of. There could be some more out there that you don't even know, but when we start our discovering and finding out, we discovered some crucial business applications that the business owners did not consider them as critical for their operations. But if that particular business process was uh, not performing to the service levels, the whole business was actually getting affected. And we have seen it repeatedly, and I'm not surprised with these poll results of 47% of you telling more than 25 business processes actually are critical to your organization. Very typical number in our research and our interaction with our customers is anywhere between 25 to 50 for medium to fairly sized organizations, and 25 or less is, I would put them in small and medium category in terms of critical business processes that affect their organization. Thank you for participating in the poll. Let me share with you in 1 minute as to the complexity of what the zero incident framework that we offer encompasses. It encompasses the ability to ingest the data from multiple monitoring tools that we talked about. The data that could be coming in could be structured, unstructured, could be in logs, could be some key performance indices that have been defined by the business, could be events, alerts, alarms from multiple tools across the silos. The intelligence comes when these events across the silos are correlated. That correlation, what does an event in a particular, if the butterflies, the thing they say, actually 1 millisecond less than fluttering their wings is going to affect how the rainfall is going to be in Amazon. Very true in the IT organizations. Incidents that occur in a different silo might affect across and will affect business processes, will affect digital experience, will affect the digital transformation process. And after correlating them, being able to perform the intelligent incident analytics on those events requires the power of artificial intelligence, algorithmic intelligence, that can help us to find the root cause. If you were to compare this again, I'll go to the well-known example, the different events of how a shopper has shopped, and being able to correlate these events led Target to predict a woman being pregnant well ahead of the woman even noticing that she's pregnant. How did that happen? Because the advanced intelligent analytics were applied to different set of events across the silos. And that is what GAVS is bringing into the table with our zero incident framework. Once we perform those analytics, the ability to self-learn and self-correct, the 2 points that Kerry made earlier on, the advanced AIOps operations, AIOps in digital transformation, cannot rely upon the draconian principles of rule-based. The self-learning and self-correcting performs dynamic rules that could be changed based on learnings, whether they're supervised, whether they're unsupervised learning, or reinforced learning that is based on rewards and penalties. Everything that you see in your learning process when it is applied through algorithms is what is required in the advanced AI ops application for digital transformation. And what is the actionable results out of that is the ability to automatically remediate such incidents or such predictions that are repetitive in nature. And that is the complexity is present behind this application of AI to the enterprise incidents and events so that we can provide a zero outage organization. And as we shared with you, zero outages are going to be the keystone for digital transformation. This is a short introduction to our zero incident framework from GAVS, which is actually showing an example of today's webinar where how digital transformation is being powered by AI. And this is an example, and our solution and our offering is an example of how we are powering digital transformation in our customers' organization. So with this, we come to the end of the webinar, and we will keep open the next few minutes after I kind of let you know some of the value we delivered through this. Being able to reduce the incident by 40% and being able to be proactive with the predictive insights that I talked about, reducing the time it takes for us to address any of the outages that might be happening for more than 60 or 50% reduction in the cost. This agile monitoring and learning and reacting proactively to anything that might affect the digital experience of the end users is what we brought to the table as our contributions for digital transformation of our customers' organizations. So this brings to the end our webinar, and now we will open up the floor for questions. And as I mentioned earlier on, there is a questions panel there, and would appreciate if you can participate by asking questions to Kerry on her speech and her insights into digital transformation and how it is being powered by AI. So Kerry, in your experience, what has been the time frame that it took for companies that you've been involved with for, I wouldn't say completely digital, but to be significantly digitally transformed?
Yeah, so there's a wide range of timeframes that companies go through to digitally transform, depending on the size and complexity of the company, as well as just the understanding of the magnitude of the change that needs to take place. If you really look at all of those different areas that need to be changed to become fully digital, It can be a multi-year effort. I was also, though, in a company that had a very customer challenges that they were having with their customer experience that caused them to want to do it a lot faster. And so it was a large, complex company as well, and there was a good portion of the transformation that took place in a year to give them a good basis to move from. So, large variety in that answer.
Yeah, well, I have a question from one of the attendees. What is the single most critical factor to embark on digital transformation?
So I think the most important thing as you embark and you get started is around mindset and culture within the organization. Maybe not the answer you'd expect, but it's so important for people to have a mindset that it's important to make the transformation and that it's bigger than change, right? So there has to be a great vision at the top, but that has to infiltrate into the culture itself. So people feel it and the culture is changing. I recently saw an article on culture hacks. I think it was out of a Gartner conference on culture hacks that you can do to make sure that you're actually embedding the transformation into the hearts and minds of the employees because it takes a lot to change. And you're always going to have in your workforce the kind of leading edge early adopters. You got to get to a point where there's a critical mass that want to make the change, and then the tail comes in the end. But without changing the culture and the mindset, you never get to critical mass.
Yeah, and there is another question here. So digital transformation at C-suite, transforming it down to the grassroots levels. Where has been the success? I mean, if the grassroots level doesn't understand why we are embarking upon this digital transformation, of course, it doesn't make any sense. So have you seen that? Have you run into something like that where the digital transformation has been a big failure because the constituents didn't understand why we were doing it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, digital transformations have these ebbs and flows, right? There's points where you hit obstacles and you hit walls, and a lot of the times those walls are people related. And so making sure that people understand not only the direction that you want to go, but why you want to go there. And being able to match the why you're going there absolutely with the customer, but also with what's important to the employee. Making those connections can help get over some of those, humps that happen along the way.
I have a couple of questions that I got on the zero incident framework technology. The first one is it possible to correlate the alerts between the applications and the infrastructure? Absolutely. See, the thing is, the infrastructure, the applications are on top of the infrastructure, of course, and they are supporting the applications. But they're so down there that something that happens in the infrastructure, the application owners and the maintenance people do not understand what might have happened, but it would be affecting multiple users. Take a simple example. Supposing, say, you have a faulty switch in your organization, a switch that nobody really cares. It should be working all the time. There hasn't been an issue with it, but all of a sudden it has become an issue. Then your multiple users whose requests and responses are going through that particular network element are going to be affected. So recognizing that there is a degradation in the performance and correlating it to that alert that came from infrastructure is where that event correlation I was talking about earlier on comes into picture. So I have another
So,
question.
Sri,
Yeah.
I see another,
Yeah.
I see another question for you.
Yeah.
I thought I'd give you the question instead.
Oh yeah, I was closing my eyes when I was answering the earlier question, so I didn't see that pop up. How is Gab's
How
AIOps?
is how is
Yeah,
Go
different
ahead.
AI platforms? An excellent question. The key differentiator is how the ZIF platform has been built addressing the availability and service assurance of business processes. The reason why I bring that as a differentiator is if you look at any other AI platforms, including the one the questionnaire asked about a particular vendor, they're collecting the events and they're correlating the events, and that they're telling you that this is correlated. Your CPU is 60% and these 6 applications or network elements or servers are affected. So what? Your CPU is at 80% and it is causing problems for multiple. So what? How does it affect my business processes? How many users are getting affected? How many users are being denied service? How can I put in automated remediation measures in place so that I can take a quick action of redirecting those users before I get the service up on that particular thing? How can I automatically expand my capacity and decrease my capacity when that demand goes out? These are the things that are inherently built into our Ziff platform, which is not an outcome of an ITSM tool trying to do AI ops. When you look at AI op platforms out there, many of the AI op initiatives have originated from people who have been doing monitoring, people who have been doing ITSM, people who have been doing, and they have gotten a set of rules. And those set of rules are the ones that are followed to provide you the insights that they're providing. But those rules are not being dynamically changed or not being dynamically learned based on the patterns. So unless that dynamic learning process and the ability to dynamically change the rules to meet the requirements based on the contextual intelligence. Contextual intelligence is an important phrase in Ziff platform. The contextual intelligence tells me as to what context is this prediction or is this insight that I'm providing with respect to the overall business operation. So that contextual intelligence is a big differentiator that we bring with our Ziff platform. There is another one that missed your attention, Kerry. How do you decide what the accuracy of the correlation? Well, that is what I was mentioning earlier on when I talked about supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced learning. The reinforced learning, I mentioned the words rewards and penalties. So every person, all of us human beings, we learn, unlearn, relearn, and reinforce our learning process through our experiences, through either intuitively or because we were told or because we were coached, mentored, and all these things kind of require a continuous learning process that involves multiple types of learning. And we, in our algorithms, we have incorporated the latest developments in those areas, and that's the reason why there is technically, from a solution perspective and from a predictability perspective, and the benefits we offer to the customer as a result, the Ziff platform is much superior than a rules-based AI platform. Well, I think we are almost in the last few minutes of the webinar. So, Kerry, if you have any final thoughts, I think we could end the webinar with your final comments, please.
Yeah, let me give a couple final comments on digital transformation. I talked about how a critical factor is mindset and culture, and that part of that is a vision from the top. That vision from the top needs to be focused on the customer. So the area that I would really start with is that customer centricity. How can you get every person in your company touching the customer? How can you learn your customers' issues to a very deep level? because that is what is going to drive your company to become digital. It's also going to help you understand where you need to grow, and it will result in extremely loyal customers, which is something that's really critical to growth today.
Okay, well, Kerry, thank you so very much. It was very insightful, and hope everybody who attended and stayed till the end were as enlightened as I am with Kerry's presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If you want to know more about our Ziff platform, please visit www.ziff.ai and and our corporate website www.gavstech.com. Thank you once again for everyone, and have a nice day. Bye.